Hello everyone, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to another video. Now today we're going to be previewing Watford versus Manchester United at Old Trafford. I'm joined by Sam and Elliot for this one. A lot to dive into. We're going to be talking about Xisco Munoz' press conference. Tom Cleverley also attended our last game against Swansea City, which wasn't a memorable one anyway, not a memorable performance or result. And then we'll be giving our predicted lineup and what changes we'd like to see to this Watford lineup. I think we'll kickstart it, Elliot, with the press conference. You were there. That's the great thing having you on the channel, not only because you know your stuff about Watford, but also you get to go to the press conferences. What was Xisco Munoz revealing in today's press conference? Because the club released an injury update just before the press conference. Did he expand on the injuries, or was he keeping his cards close to his chest?
Yeah, keeping his cards close to his chest. Yeah, he was completely he wasn't saying anything. He was remaining very quiet about injury news and all of that. He even said that we could see Philip Zinkernagel, but he didn't want to confirm that either. Tom Cleverley actually basically confirmed it afterwards by saying that it's a good opportunity to see him play. But yeah, on the team news front, there was barely anything from Xisco. It was mainly about his optimism going into the game, how he felt about playing against a team like Manchester United at Old Trafford, and just the experience of playing against a team like Manchester United, who are obviously one of the biggest clubs in the world, and he's not had that experience before. So I think he's quite excited for that.
Yeah, it's probably, well, it must be the biggest game of his managerial career so far, his short managerial career. Did Tom Cleverley say anything going into playing against his former club? Was he excited for that one?
Yeah, he said he's really happy to go back. Obviously, he's been there quite a lot in recent years, and he said that Watford is more his home than Manchester United, which is quite nice because he obviously started his career at Manchester United. He seemed happy. He seemed like he'd be willing to give it like a free go. They seem to be going into it with no real optimism, but just they're looking to give it their best shot. Xisco Munoz gave his typical "we'll fight like animals" quote that he's been sort of known for now, where he just said we'll fight as long as we can for the full 90 minutes, and whatever happens at the end, then yeah, basically that. Yeah.
Love it. I do like that phrase from Xisco. Sam, how important is this cup game? Because Shane said it in his reaction to the Swansea game, where he was like, chuck out the kids, the under-23s. I'm not really that fussed. We should just focus on the championship. But also, there's an argument to suggest that this could really help our confidence if we can come away with a good performance or even a result, which is obviously unlikely. Manchester United are the favourites. How important is this, just in terms of the whole of the season?
I think, eventually, I know Shane mentioned about just putting the kids out there, and we'll come on to it in the lineups, but I think it's a massive opportunity for so many players, not just because it's going to be on live TV, playing against one of the biggest clubs in the world, millions will be watching, but just in terms of the momentum and the atmosphere around the place, because I thought kind of towards the end of Ivic's reign, it was going down the atmosphere around the club. Norwich, we had a short spike again, and then last week it just all went into tatters. So it's going to be really important, I think, just for the atmosphere of the club, if we can get an upset against Man United, just for the general mood around the place and just creating that winning feeling again. Again, we had that small one against Norwich, but it's been a long time since we had full confidence in this Watford side and saw them, every single one of them, giving 100% and fighting like animals, like Munoz keeps on saying. But it'll just be important to see a performance out there, I think.
Sam makes a really good point, Elliot, about maybe the feel-good factor at Watford, because I think after the Norwich game, if you watch my match reaction, I was really excited because I think the scenes at full time, there was a real togetherness, I thought, and then it was kind of complete roles reversal in terms of the Swansea performance, where we looked pretty poor. Maybe the first 20 minutes we looked okay, and then we just drifted out the game, and it was quite a poor performance. For you, how important is this game? Because Sam says it could be really important for the confidence, but is there a suggestion which is basically we just need to concentrate fully on the championship?
I think ultimately the FA Cup is not the goal, and of course the championship has got to be the main priority. But a game like this, we've had a week to prepare for this one. We'll have another week until we play Huddersfield, so there's no real issue with giving everything we have for this week. I think it would be a huge boost to beat Manchester United, obviously, but I think any performance that shows the passion and shows a stronger performance at least than last week, that'll be a huge improvement. I think the spirit will be back in this Watford side.
So it's almost more maybe about a performance rather than actually getting the result. Obviously, we want to get the result, but say if we come away with a loss and actually put in a really, really good performance that we can take into our next few fixtures, that's the goal, I guess, for this one, no?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think if it was a sort of like a 4-3 loss or something like that, I think we'd all be very happy. And yeah, as long as we see strikers scoring, which they haven't been doing so much at Watford recently, or if we see someone like Daniel Backman putting a good performance, he's likely to be the goalkeeper. Yeah, I think there'll be a positive spirit going into Huddersfield at home next week.
Right, we'll take it back before we get on to the predicted lineup for the Manchester United game, Sam. The Swansea game, I was pretty critical of the performance because I think when you get that early goal through Tom Cleverley, you're thinking, you know what, this is the opportunity. We need to kick on now, get that second goal. And against a promotion rival in Swansea, I thought that was the perfect opportunity to do that. But we kind of just went back into our shell. And Deeney said it was due to two different managerial styles in Ivic and Xisco, where basically we had our old ways and we reverted to those old ways. How disappointing was that performance for you, or do you think it's maybe a little bit of an overreaction from me that I was quite critical of the performance?
No, I think you got it bang on. I was really critical of it. I knew it was very weird because as soon as Cleverley scored, you could see straight away from the kickoff how deep they got straight away, and that's where I've kind of been critical of Xisco so far. Because I thought against Norwich as well. I know we eventually won 1-0, but during the game I was thinking we are so deep. And I don't think that suits this Watford team. I think that's why we struggled under Ivic, because I think this team prefers to have kind of the shackles taken off, releasing Sarr, Sema, kind of having that pace going forward. And I just thought that everything went wrong after that Tom Cleverley goal. I thought tactics were wrong, substitutions were wrong. I sound like I'm blaming it on Xisco, but again, I'll say it again, there's so long that we can blame the manager until we look at these players, because ultimately, again, they didn't fight. They didn't show any desire. They didn't show any passion, and the quality wasn't good enough, particularly in the final third. So, in short, it was just, I thought it was dreadful personally.
Elliot, Sam makes a really interesting point about Xisco's tactical style so far, and I think it was pretty clear when he came in the club. Well, actually said in the opening article that he was an attacking coach, and that was kind of the main selling factor of him. The two games we've seen so far, we've set up in a 4-4-2, very compact, very Rafa Benitez-esque in all honesty, quite deep, looking to play on the break. Is it early days to suggest that maybe he's not as attacking as we thought, or do you think it was maybe just the opposition? He thought, you know what, Norwich and Swansea, better footballing sides, and this is how I'm going to approach the game?
I think it might be a transitional thing as well, because you've got Vladimir Ivic's defensive style, although he actually said when he joined that he was an attacking coach as well. Yeah, I think it is the transition from a defensive coach into an attacking coach. I know Munoz said today when I asked him about reacting to a defeat that he doesn't want to make the same mistake twice. So maybe the mistake was, like many Watford players have said in post-match interviews, that they sat too deep, that they allowed the pressure. So I think it is something that will take time, and I think eventually we will be a more attacking team. Like Sam says, you've got players like Sarr and Sema who are a bit more free to attack and to basically use their skill, which we all know they have. And maybe from an attacking perspective, the likes of Sarr haven't really been able to provide what we know they're capable of. So I think it is a time thing. I think we'll see eventually this attacking approach. But like you say, against teams like Norwich and Swansea, you've got to be careful with how much you attack, because they can hit you on the counter, and they've got clearly very talented players.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And actually, Sam, I think just talking about Xisco's tactical approach, I've seen a lot of shouts, me included, about maybe shifting to a 4-2-3-1. 4-4-2 has been deployed for the last two games, maybe dropping one of the strikers, putting Zinchenko into that attacking midfield role. Would you like to see maybe us try a different formation, or are you settled with the 4-4-2 that he's using at the moment?
I think Elliot picked up on something really important with Xisco. It's that we need time with this, and we don't know his best formation. I don't think he's been in management long enough to know his best formation. So it's a very difficult one to answer, because also we don't know how good Zinchenko is. It's all very well watching him was he in Denmark or Norway?
Yeah, the Elite Serie in the Norwegian League.
Yeah, in Norway. So it's all very well saying he was good there, but it's going to be very different, and he needs time to adapt in the Championship as well. Again, I don't think it matters what formation we're playing on. We've got the striking options we have up top. That's not being overly critical of Troy and Andre, which a lot of people are, but they're just not Championship quality. I mean, I'd go as far as saying that they're not good enough, and regardless of what shape we're in, there's no chance of us playing to their strengths, because they're simply not good enough for this team.
I think that was a big concern for me, Elliot, from the Swansea game, was for me, the lack of attacking intent we had after the goal, but also the opportunities we were creating. I mean, I can't remember many clear-cut chances after that goal that we did create. And I think another big blow is having Stipe Perica out, as the club said, for a few weeks or so. João Pedro's back into full training. Is that maybe an area you'd consider changing? Because I think, as Sam said, a lot of fans are getting quite critical and on the back of Andre Gray and Troy Deeney for the lack of maybe opportunities that they're not only getting, but actually creating, because it's not a lot at the moment.
I think it's also maybe a hope kind of thing, where many people saw Deeney and Gray as Premier League quality. People, themselves, they said, we're both Premier League quality strikers. So the expectations are high. People think, well, they should be hitting at least double figures this season. And obviously they haven't lived up to that. There's this telepathic, what's the word?
Communication,
that's it. Telepathic communication that we're told about, that where they can just play off of each other perfectly, and we haven't seen that yet, to be honest. And I think something has to change. I don't know if it's a change of personnel, whether we bring someone like João Pedro back in as a centre forward, which we have seen a little bit earlier on in the season. It's not really his natural position, but maybe this is an opportunity against Manchester United to mix things up and see what works, because right now, frankly, Deeney and Gray isn't working.
Would you change the formation, Elliot? Just expanding on that. Would you go to a 4-2-3-1 or stick with a 4-4-2?
It feels like the only option right now. I really don't know where the likes of Zinchenko would fit in there, because you can't drop Sarr, you can't drop Sema. If Hughes comes back, I think he slots straight into the team. So do you play him in the middle, where I'm not sure I think he's good there, but I don't know if that's his most comfortable position. So I'm not sure where all of this fits, whether you try Sarr as a striker. I'm not sure that'd be right. So I think Xisco's got a bit of a selection headache on his hands. But I think 4-2-3-1 stylistically is the best approach for Watford.
I think it says a lot that we're one game off halfway through the season and we still don't know our best team or our best formation. It's really, really concerning. And I don't want this video to be all doom and gloom, because we've got a really exciting game coming up at the weekend, and I do think it'll be a really good game. But it just speaks of the quality of this Watford side and where we really need to improve.
I'll tell you what, Sam, we'll go on to a more positive note. We'll move on to the predicted lineup. I think we'll start with the goalkeeping situation, because Elliot mentioned that Xisco had kind of hinted at Bachmann playing at the end, but he kept his cards quite close to his chest, whether it's going to be Foster or Bachmann. Who would you go with? I would go with Bachmann personally.
Yeah, Bachmann, 100%.
Yeah, Batman as well. Yeah, 100%. I think the scrutiny that Foster's been under in the fan base, cycling GK aside, but his performances, I don't think of late have been up to scratch. I know he saved us a lot of times, but the mistakes at Swansea, the mistakes at Huddersfield, I just don't. His distribution in general this season, I think it's time that we just give Bachmann a chance. And if he does play well, it gives Munoz another further selection headache, because can you drop one of your most experienced players, probably one of the biggest voices in the dressing room? It's all down to Bachmann's performance of the weekend, and I really hope for his sake, because he's been patient, that he does well.
Elliot, what other Sorry, go on. You're going to mention about Bachmann?
Yeah, well, Munoz said that he's delighted with Bachmann's attitude, and I think you can only go so far as a goalkeeper. If you're not getting picked even for the cup games, the attitude will likely drop, because if you're not getting any game time at all, I think he's 26, which isn't old for a goalkeeper by any stretch, but you're going to want to play first team football, or at least get some opportunities at 26. So I think if he wasn't even to play him in the cup games, then I think that's a problem on Munoz's part.
And I guess we've got to start looking a little bit long term as well, because Ben Foster's 38 now. We've got Dalberg out on loan at BK Häcken. We've got Daniel Bachmann, who two young, talented goalkeepers. Maybe not Bachmann's young, but he's kind of like in the peak years anyway. So I think we've got to maybe look beyond this season, because if we don't play Bachmann in the cup, then I wouldn't be surprised if he was looking for offers elsewhere. Because if you're not getting opportunities in the cup, then I don't know what that message that does send, as you mentioned, Elliot. Elliot, what other changes would you make to the lineup from the Swansea game? Is there any clear and obvious ones that should get a run out on the weekend?
I think Adam Messina should start. I think he's so close to a return now that he needs to start a game and needs to up his fitness to the point that he gets a start. And obviously he's a fantastic left back, so that would also do well against a player like Pellistri, who might start, or maybe even if the new signing Amad Diallo's fit. or even someone like Jesse Lingard, who we've seen perform against Watford over the years. So I think we need someone like Messina, who's an experienced head at the back. Defensively, I'm not sure what you can change with injuries. I think Sierralta and Wilmot would probably have to start. Moving forward, yeah, it's a difficult one because there aren't many areas that you can rotate in. Maybe the likes of Hungbo, Critchlow, Dan Phillips, or maybe even Sam Dalby could come in and maybe play a part. I'd like to see that.
Good stuff. Big question, Sam. Does Philip Zinckernagel start for you, make his debut at Old Trafford?
He does for me. Whether he can play the whole 90 minutes is another question. I do think we will see him at some point, whether it's for the first hour or the last half an hour. I do think we'll see some of him. I've actually, in terms of my predicted lineup, I've got him down as playing. I'm not sure if it's up front, but around. I saw your tweet, actually. Yeah, around Troy. Nice. I think he will go with Deeney and Zinckernagel as the two furthest forward men. Going back to the defence, there are a couple who I do want to see. I personally, I think Kiko and Ngakia have been two of our standouts this season. They've been fantastic. I can hardly fault them. Particularly, they've both been playing out of position at times on the left. But I want to see Mark Navarro because he's got
about him.
Yeah, he's got. I mean, he's fit. He's been on the bench the last few games and has come on as well. I think we signed him. I'm not sure how old he is. He can't be too old. I think he's maybe mid-20s.
Yeah, he's definitely he's not that old. Let me just double check that.
No.
He's 25 years of age.
25, yeah. So I want to see him. I just think that particularly with the amount of games we've got coming up, and Ngakia seems to come off quite a bit tired. Kiko's getting on a bit as well, as good as they've both been, but certainly won't be a bad option to have and to perhaps give. I've got Ngakia down to have kind of a week off now, so I think I want to see Mark Navarro in there.
That's a really interesting point, actually, Sam, about the games that are coming up, because we've got Huddersfield and Barnsley in the next week, 2 games in a week. So it probably is an opportunity for him to rest it. And I guess there's a bit of a difficult balancing act for Xisco, because on the one hand, you want to give it a really good go. But on the other hand, you probably are going to rest your key players and players that are going to be playing throughout this season. I would like to see Will Hughes get given a start because we haven't seen enough of him this season. I think he's good enough to play against the teams like Manchester United, and also he needs to get his fitness back up. So 2 players who have returned to full training this week are Craig Cathcart and João Pedro. Elliot, do those 2 play a part this weekend, or is it just about maybe just leaving it a little bit longer because of the congested championship schedule, or do you chuck him in for Saturday?
I think I'd give João Pedro 20 to 25 minutes at the end, but I wouldn't chance it because I can't remember whether that's a hamstring injury. I know with
hamstring,
Cathcart, yeah, with Cathcart it's a hamstring as well. I wouldn't chance them for too long on the weekend. Cathcart, I don't think he needs to come in, to be honest, because we've got William Troost-Ekong who's back, and we've got Sierralta and Wilmot. So I just don't think it's worth chancing. Cathcart has been out for quite a while now. I think it's been about 4 or 5 weeks. So yeah, I wouldn't chance it with Cathcart, but with the lack of attacking options, I'd maybe give João Pedro 20 to 30 minutes.
Sam, we've talked a lot about Watford today, just on a Manchester United front. Is this an opportunity to maybe cause an upset? Of course, it feels a bit weird that we're not in the same league because we have been for the past 5 seasons or so. Obviously, they're on the back of the defeat against Manchester City, not only it being a Manchester derby loss, but in a Carabao Cup semi-final. I'd imagine they will have an eye on winning a cup this season, and an FA Cup is a perfect opportunity. But Solskjaer is most likely to rotate the side. Is this an opportunity to cause an upset, or do you only see it going one way?
It's the FA Cup. Anything can happen. I think it is a perfect opportunity to cause an upset. I think their momentum would have been damaged because they were on a fantastic run, but that loss in the semi-final would be really damaging. And I also think a lot of key players last night, for them, if you watch the game, looked exhausted. I think he'll give Bruno Fernandes a rest. I think he'll give Rashford a rest, perhaps Martial. So we're going to see a rotated Man United side, but that's still going to be an extremely strong team. Is Cavani back for this game? I'm not sure if he's back.
No,
no, he's
back.
not.
Okay, so but we'll probably see the likes of Mason Greenwood start. We could see this new Diallo start if he's eligible for the game. They'll have Dean Henderson in goal, so it's going to be a strong United side, but I think if we turn up, and they'll be surprised not surprised, but there's that element of shock from the lower league teams that can kind of be implemented onto onto teams like Man United. So if we can start well, and the start's going to be massive, because if we go 1-0 down after 10 minutes, that's it. I think we could lose by 3 or 4. So it's all about the start, staying in the game, and going from there. I just will say, though, as well, it would be really interesting to see how we'd set up for this game if Ivic was in charge. Because I think it would probably suit Ivic's style of play perfectly. Sit deep, get the fullbacks wide, and go forward from there. So it'll be really interesting to see how Xisco sets up and how attacking he plays.
Elliot, for you, which areas do we need to exploit against Manchester United? Because on paper, if they play a rotated side, it's still a really strong side. I think defensively, there's some liability moments in there, especially with Maguire anyway, personally. But Elliot, for you, which areas do we need to exploit, and which areas do you think Manchester United are weak and we could take advantage of?
It's a tough one. I think maybe it's better to look at their lack of strength in some areas, because they've got someone like Donny van der Beek who'll probably start in midfield, so that's not a weakness because he's a very, very good player. So yeah, maybe the back line, I don't know who they'd start really, maybe one of the youngsters, maybe Ted Mengi. Yeah, so I think maybe exploit the inexperience of their back line. I know that they've not had the best form at Old Trafford. They've been very good away, but at home it's not quite been the same kind of team. So yeah, just exploit the inexperience of some of the youngsters. I think maybe Brandon Williams might start if he's not going out on loan. So yeah, just take advantage of those players that haven't played as much, and maybe with experience like Tom Cleverley and maybe Deeney, if he starts, maybe we can ruffle a few feathers with the Deeney in particular.
Fingers crossed. Sam, Elliot, we'll wrap it up with score predictions. Hopefully Watford can win in the third round of the FA Cup. Sam, what are you going for score prediction wise?
I'm going for a 2-1 Watford win.
Elliot?
I'll go 3-1 United.
Oh.
Wait, are there replays in this one? Are there replays?
I don't think so because of
COVID. Yeah, I thought. Yeah, because most of the knockout games have been more legs. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 and Watford win it on penalties. Why not? Let's do it. Right, that's
imagine King Ken scoring the winning penalty as well.
No, Zinkernagel just stands in front of the
empty crowd.
Can you imagine? I'll tell you what, that's a great place to wrap it up. Thank you very much for watching our match preview, guys. Manchester United versus Watford on Saturday, 8 o'clock kickoff. Make sure you do like the video if you did enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and follow Elliot and Sam on their social medias down in the description below. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheers, guys.